All right, we're live, and I'm very excited to introduce today's guest. On today's episode of Welcome to the Winner Circle, I interview an ordained spiritual minister, a teacher, a metaphysician, a Reiki master, a ecstatic reader. I don't know how to say that properly, and she could teach
Akashic.
us. Akashic reader, mental health advocate, business advocate, and a former Miss Canada. Welcome to the Winner Circle, Shannon Smedella.
Thank you so much for having me here, Derek. It's a
Yeah,
pleasure to be here.
yeah, we met a few years ago at a yoga festival, Prairie Love, that you were teaching at. I had the opportunity to take two of your classes, and they're such beautiful experiences. And I'm looking forward to deepening our connection on this conversation.
Thank you so much.
So there's a lot of chaos going on in the world right now, and the goal of this podcast is to bring some light, to bring some positivity in the world. So let's start off with a really positive question and look at the optimist side of things. What do you love about your world right now, Shannon?
A lot of things I love about my world. First of all, good on you for doing a podcast because the world needs this right now. We need to be in community and share our good things and our positivity. So it's awesome to see all of the people you're interviewing in the podcast. So what is good in my world? I am looking out at the mountains right now. The Kokomi Glacier is just over beyond. So excited to be in nature right now and close to nature. And that's been a big part of my journey lately, is just being in the present moment in nature, being with my son, spending time that I was not able to spend with him when I was working 100 hours a week, running a yoga studio, working in finance, just being a busy yogi running all over the world, teaching classes. So that is amazing, and just enjoying the beauty of making my way home. And I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but I think we're all on this journey of healing and making our way home, wherever home might be for you. But it's just the journey of bringing the body back into balance is so absolutely beautiful, and I'm enjoying that right now so much.
Beautiful. So in my introduction, I listed many hats that you wear. And one question I ask all our guests to help listeners get to know them is asking about their mission. Just like all companies have a mission, we as individuals ought to know ours. And the mission is always changing, but that mission guides us in whatever hat we wear, whether that is your hat as a mother, a Reiki master, a yoga teacher, or a former Miss Canada, that word that I can't say properly, a Asiatic reader. How do you say that?
Akashic.
Akashic reader. And you could tell us what that is, because I don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
But in all the hats we wear, we have a mission, and that mission is something that flows throughout them all. So what is your mission, Shannon?
That is such a good question. And there have been times in my life where I am like, what is my mission? What is my purpose? And I've even been to, because you're right, you said it changes. And I think as we evolve as our own human, as our consciousness evolves, I think that definitely does change based on what position we are in our life. And I've been at a point in my life where, I've been sitting in a sweat ceremony with an elder, and everything in my world is falling apart. And I'm like, what is my purpose? Everything is falling apart. So what am I supposed to do? What is my mission? And then I've been at other points in my life where it's, beyond a doubt, like this is what it is. This is the mission. And you're full on the mission. So like you said, it's changed. And for me, the mission has always, no matter how it's changed, has been to be of service and to be helping people in whatever way that might be. When I first started out, I guess you could say, in the working world, all those years ago, so 20 years ago or so, the mission was to help people through teaching them sales and business techniques. And then the mission kind of evolved more to helping people through yoga and meditation. And kind of, I'd have to say, more on a superficial, not a superficial level, but on a first 4 stages outer world of the 8 limb, or the 8, Patanjali's 8 parts of the what do you call it, the Ashtanga yoga there. So the first 4, we know, the yamas, asana, and pranayama, are the outer world, and that was kind of like helping people on that part. And then it evolved, moving into helping people on the next 4, which is the inner part. So you go your pratyahara, your dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. And it's interesting how it evolves, because it almost evolves with what you're going through in your life and what you're learning in your life. And yeah, it's been beautiful with that. And then, of course, primary is raising my son and protecting my son and making sure he has a great life in this world. So primary, I have to say, being a mother, and that actually kind of intertwines into all of the purpose, because when we're being of service to the world, we kind of are being a mother, right? We kind of are, even if we're in a male body, we're still taking care of people, and that's kind of motherly. So when I've been searching for, okay, what do I do now? It's always been, okay, be of service, be a mother, take care of people in whatever way that might be. It's a long answer for that.
No, that's great. So this podcast is called Welcome to the Winner Circle, because it is, in my belief, that we could all be winners. And that starts with a choice. So often we live in a society that is, I am a winner when I get this destination, whether that be this relationship or this house or this possession or this degree or this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it's in my belief that when we choose to pursue our passion, listen to our heart, and move forward in that direction, we're winning. It's the process where the sweetness lies rather than the destination. And we could all be winners. So rather than putting people on pedestals, which many people do to you, they see all the accomplishment, all the great things you've done. Well, she could do that. Like I'm just doing this. But by moving forward towards those goals, like, you're winning. What more could you ask of yourself than that? So that's what going for your win means to me. What does going for your win mean to you, Shannon? And what does your win look like for you today?
That's a good question, and I'm glad you asked it, because it changes every day, and it changes depending on what what I'm doing. There's been a point in my life where waking up and being alive was a win. I have some pretty interesting stories. A lot of times on social media, people only see the good that people go through, but there's been a lot of hard work and a lot of, there's been just as many tough times, if even more tough times, to get the good times that a lot of people don't always see. So, I've fought for my life before. So waking up and being alive is a win. When I was on the bike ride from Calgary to Los Angeles, this was back in 2010, when I was raising money for the Red Cross, and had this great idea of riding my bike from Calgary down to Santa Monica, across the Rocky Mountains, and then down the coast. And a win was just making it to the end of the day, getting to the end of the day, and getting our 100 kilometers done that day. There's been times where a win has been, just completing a series of huge tasks or goals that I had set to myself for myself. So, small or large, I think just if we at least have something that we desire and know what we desire, and then make steps towards that, then we're winning. Being alive, we're winning. Like, we're so blessed to even be alive, to have this experience as a human. No matter how, what comes our way, it's just, that's in itself is a win, I think. And then along the way, there's a whole bunch of other wins we can have. But hey, like, we're human. This is right now anyway. This is pretty awesome.
Absolutely. One thing that strikes me about you when we met is you're a very humble person, and often humble people, we don't acknowledge our victories and our celebrations. So I want to give you the floor to speak about some things that you are most proud of. So what are some of the biggest wins on your path? What do you look back on and say, good on me for that, something that I'm proud of?
Oh my goodness, now I'm blushing. Definitely, number one would have to be being a mother. It's definitely something that I'm proud of because I've done it on my own. From 2 months into my pregnancy to now, and I have the most, well, every mother says I have the most beautiful son, but I have a very beautiful, intelligent, wise guru, and he's taught me so much. So that would have to be, my biggest win, because he has had a part in making me, who I am, and or who people see me as. We can go beyond that and talk about, we're so much greater than all of our experiences deep down, but he's just been a big influence for that, especially in my teachings. And I remember running retreats and workshops back, I don't even know, when he was like 2, I guess he was 3, maybe, when he was asking these questions. But I'd be 2-3 days before running a big yoga retreat, and I was thinking, okay, what's my keynote about? What's it going to be about? And he'd be sitting in the back of the car and he'd say, "Mommy, where does my voice come from?" And I'd be like, okay, well, I'm a science major. I could, explain it to him anatomically how that works. But then it's like deep down, it's like, well, where does your voice come from? And then it gets you thinking philosophically, and then you end up running a whole retreat on, where does your voice come from? What is this voice that's behind these thoughts? And you can go into, explaining deeper states of who we actually are. So number one, my son would be a great win. Along the way, if I start, I guess, back from the beginning of my business career 20 years ago, I've had a lot of success in business, and I know it's a lot different from yoga, but I did start out in business. I actually went to the University for Science, microbiology and immunology, and started working when I was 19, I think it was. I finished school when I just turned 16 or 17. I finished school half a year early, so I guess that was a win, with honors, and decided to go to the University of Saskatchewan and took, like I said, microbiology, immunology, science, and did well in that, did well in business. I was a district manager when I was 20, so I was running a marketing firm while going to school full time. And while I was doing that, I won many awards in business, and was one of the top in Canada in my region, et cetera, et cetera. That's not really fun stuff to hear about, but it was definitely a part of, making me who I was. And then if we continue on, I did that for 6 years, and I was then working with C95 in Saskatoon, which is a radio station. And I was sitting on my couch watching the Miss Universe pageant, And I was also helping out a lot of charities at the time. And I was trying to figure out how to market the charity that I was working with, because it was helping to collect grad dresses for girls who couldn't afford to buy their own. And I thought, hey, if I was Miss Canada, then perhaps that would give me a better platform and more people would listen to what I had to say. And I Googled it and, looked at all the ways to apply. Well, the one way to apply, but what I needed to do, the criteria. And I had done a little modeling in university. So I said, okay, well, I can do the evening gown thing, no problem, and the swimsuit thing. I said, well, I need to get, I was training at the time, but I was like, yeah, I can get into better shape. That's easy. I wrestled for the U of S. I actually wrestled all through elementary school and a little bit of high school. So I was a wrestler.
Oh, wow.
So I said,
I
no
didn't know that.
problem. I can, get into shape super easy, because I knew how to. The wrestlers were probably some of the hardest trainers in the whole university. So like, we know how to get into shape super easy. So that was easy. And then at my marketing firm as a district manager, I was a partly a recruiter. So I interviewed people for a living. I interviewed over 3,000 people a year. And I was like, okay, well, I can speak to people. I can communicate with people. I can do the interview because I interview people. And I was like, okay, well, those are all the things that I need to do. So I applied and got accepted and went in the competition and ended up winning. And that, I make it sound really easy, but it wasn't. I learned so much, and I have so much written about the process. And I plan to hopefully, publish a book about it someday. It's very interesting. But once I had won, the whole, I remember thinking to myself, because it was around the time where I took my very first yoga teacher training. And when I was going through my yoga teacher training, you're learning, I'm not just the body, I'm not just the mind. I'm so much greater than that. And I remember thinking, if I can change my body and if I can change my mind, is it actually reality? Is that actually who I am? And then I was like, this is what I need to speak to the kids about, because we're judged so much by our appearance. And I was in a competition in which you're judged by, a lot by your appearance. And I was like, this isn't right. I need to speak about this. And it turned my whole platform into speaking about inner beauty and inner confidence, and about really just being who you are truthfully on the inside, no matter what anyone else thinks. And I talked a lot about bullying to kids, and really just about being confident, and it's okay to be who you are. And I finished that year by going to the Grammy Awards and wearing a burlap dress. It was a beautiful dress. It was supposed to be just a sack, but the designer made it really beautiful. But it was the potato sack material, and I wore that on the red carpet at the Grammy Awards to, just to, in a way, prove a point, I guess, that it's what's within that really matters. And funny enough, I've learned that through the different challenges that I've had in my life. How do we transcend the body, and how do we transcend the mind to really be our true self, who is within and who is so much greater than all of that. And of course, we need to keep the body healthy and keep the mind healthy in order for what is within to be here. So that's also very important. But that was a big win and beautiful experience, just touring the world, getting to speak to these children. I had a chance to go to Ecuador, where I almost died again. I laugh now, but it wasn't funny at the time. I got bit by a spider and had to see a shaman, and had a near-death experience where I prayed and I said, if I have a purpose here, let me fulfill it. I wouldn't mind sticking around for a while. That was back in 2009 that happened. And yeah, the bike ride was a win. That was in 2010. And traveling 4,000 kilometers on my bike when I had never rode more than 50 kilometers before. Yeah, we raised I think a couple $100,000, and yeah, it was amazing. I got to meet my childhood crush, Zach Morris. I think his real name is Mark Paul Gosselaar. So I grew up watching Saved by the Bell, and it was just the connections that I managed to have down there through some wonderful people who were helping run our event. They were friends with him and invited him on the last day to ride with us from Malibu to Santa Monica. And, you know, I got to give him a hug, and I was like, oh, Zach Morris. And have a picture with him and my funny enough, my son's second name is Zachary. So and that's, you know, part of the reason why. So yeah, he was just an amazing person. We got to ride with him and made some great friends. And through the whole Miss Canada thing, it's interesting because Canada and the US are quite different when it comes to the whole celebrity status. So, you know, you can walk around in Canada as Miss Canada and no one knows who you are. And, you know, you go down to the US and you have all the paparazzi following you and all that, and, you know, do red carpet events. So I did quite a few red carpet events down there, which is pretty fun for charity, and made a lot of great friends through that I still have as friends today. And one of them is David Joyner, who played the Barney the dinosaur, and we're still great friends today. So that was an amazing experience. And through that, I helped over through, I guess this is like 15 years now of being in business and doing this Canada thing, was able to help over 88 charities and raise millions of dollars for people who needed it. So that was a win there as well. And yeah, and then it continues, you know, and went on to running. I've run 2 successful yoga studios, traveled the world teaching yoga, and taught at many festivals, and yeah. So I could keep going, but there's
Those are a lot of
that's a lot.
That's a lot of wins. So through all these wins, through all this journeying, how do you now answer that question you spoke of earlier, that such important question that Eckhart Tolle likes to say is one of the right before we asked right before the beginning of our transformation or enlightenment, and that's, who am I? How would you answer that? Who are you, Shannon?
Oh, do you know how many times I've asked that question at different times in my life? And I probably asked it the most when I've gone through severe illness. And at a time where, you know, where your body is dying, you're like, okay, well, what is my purpose? Am I still supposed to be here? Who actually am I? You know, am I the body? Am I the mind? Am I something else? So I've asked that many times, and the conclusion I've come to is we're all of it. It's interesting, and I'll explain that. I was in a seminar with Deepak Chopra when I did my primordial sound meditation training with him, and I was sitting there with my eyes closed. He had us do this exercise, and we had a partner. So I had my eyes closed, and our partner has to ask us, who are you? Who are you? Like over and over and over and over again. And whatever comes up, you need to say. And I just remember having my eyes closed, and I was listening, because there's probably 1,000 people in the room. And I was listening. I heard over here, mother, and then I heard teacher over here, and then I heard let's just say like astronaut over here, and then business professional over here, and then all these different people saying all these things. And the only thing that would come up for me is I am everything. I am all of that. And then it would switch and it would say, but I'm none of that. But I'm all of that and none of that. So I'm everything and I'm nothing. So And then I remember Deepak coming on stage and he said exactly that. And I'm not telling you to say, okay, well, I was right, but I'm telling you that because we are everything in a way, and we can be anything. And I remember the way one of my teachers, Sadhguru, explained it is he said, when Shannon is 3, she's the same Shannon as she is as when she's 5, as when she's, 15, as when she's 25, as when she's 39. It's the same Shannon inside. It's the external that changes and our mind changes. And, we're taught in yoga that whatever is changing is not real. What is unchanging is what is real. And what is unchanging is what is inside. It's that Shannon, whatever, Shannon, the name is what is given to it, but it's that what is inside that is real and unchanging. And that is the same that is inside every other person. That's what we say namaste to, right? That unchanging, whether you want to call it God, or whether you want to call it the universe, or prana, or chi, or, the life force, whatever it is that makes us here, it's that beauty, that amazing energy and life force that is within us, that is unchanging, that is us. So that is what I have come to conclude, because everything else you can change. Your mind you can change, your body you can change, but what is inside, it's like that's who you truly are. And it can be, and it's everything. It's I've had this experience before where I was at an ashram. It was the Institute of Inner Sciences in Tennessee, and we went through this sadhana. And our guru, he had us eat this peanut, and whatever he did, it was like this profound realization that whatever life force was in this peanut was the same life force that was within me. And I remember looking outside and just like being so connected with all of the plants and all the trees. And I sat down to eat this cantaloupe. And I have to really write this story out because it's so interesting. But I just remember like tears were pouring from my eyes over a cantaloupe. And because of the realization that the same life force, this probably sounds funny to someone who hasn't been through this experience, but the same life force that's in this cantaloupe is the same life force that's in me, that's in you, that's in every other person that's out there. And I didn't even want to eat it because I didn't want to put my teeth through it. But it's like, what an amazing thing that cantaloupe is like giving its life force to me. And how grateful I should be, and knowing that what is within me is what is within you. How could I ever hurt or harm any other person or being? And that's a drive to really just help people and to connect with people and to be kind to people and understand that, I always tell my son this because he has, he's in that age of where people, kids start to bully and all of that. And it's like, honey, if someone is mean to you, it's not because they want to be. Maybe they had a bad day, or maybe there's something that is, going on in their life that is happening to them. And, maybe it's a situation where they're not so fortunate. So instead of like sending that negativity back to them, we have to love them. We have to give them that love and that nurturing, because you never know what someone's going through in their life. So just knowing we're all, that's all in all of us, and understanding that and being kind to each other.
So your son Ryder has come up a lot in this conversation, and he's now 9 years old. How do you help Ryder with that question of discovering who am I? How do you teach him to answer that question himself and discover it?
That's a tough one. Mostly, I just let him be himself. That's not the only question that comes up. So it's one of many difficult ones, like, Mommy, why are we here? Mommy, is this reality, or are we just in a game? Mommy, what is the meaning of life? So as a mother, you're like a PhD times 100, because, a philosophy expert, because these questions do come up, right? And it's funny, when we become adults, sometimes we forget to still ask those questions. It's so interesting that as children, they want to know the answers to all of this, and it makes sense. But for him, who is he? I let him come up with the answers, and some of the answers that he comes up with and ends up really just teaching me. And I remember when he was probably 3 years ago, and when he asked the question, who am I? What am I made of? And I said, well, what do you think? Where do you think you come from? What are you made of? And he says, well, I've got to be at least half earth. I got to be made of at least half earth, and then probably at least half stardust. And I said, well, that's probably a good, better answer than a lot of people would come up with, right? Partly from earth and partly from partly not. Because part of us does go back to the earth here, and as we know, the cycle continues, and part of us doesn't. Part of us continues on, perhaps depending on what, belief system you follow. But that life force energy, that leaves the body when we leave the dust here, that's the stardust.
So let's talk about some other roles of yours. You're now an ordained spiritual minister. Tell me about that.
Well, that is also an interesting thing. I got interested in metaphysics probably 2 or 3 years into, actually, I've probably been interested in my whole life. I remember when I was 5 looking, laying down on the grass, looking up at the sky and thinking, there must be more to this than this blue dome that we're in. And so with metaphysics, it's, what's beyond the physical. And as a child, I also had some interesting experiences that I'm now experiencing again in meditation that are like almost unexplainable. So they're hard to even communicate. But I always had this feeling that there was more than just this reality. And, through university, had some experiences with, I don't know, out of body beings, I guess you can say. So was always interested in that type of thing. And came upon some courses that I could take in metaphysics. And through that, there was an opportunity to study metaphysics more and become an ordained minister. So I grew up Catholic, and as an ordained metaphysical minister, it's not a religious ordination, it's a spiritual one, in a way where, as an ordained minister, I help people kind of answer the questions that you've been asking. Who am I? And the big philosophical questions like, where do we come from and why are we here? What is your purpose? So exactly what you've been asking. And helping that find that within themselves, but also help to, in a way, first deconstruct what they've built up for themselves, whether it be limitations that they find, traumas that they've been through that perhaps hold them back from, going after what they want in life. And really just realizing the power that they have within themselves would probably be the biggest thing, because a lot of times we're searching outside of ourselves for the answers when we really actually have them all within.
I agree. So what is an Akashic reader? And I hope I said that right on this third charm.
Yeah, for sure. The Akash is basically the history of our soul's journey. So from the moment that our soul came into being, all the way through all of its, journeys. So all of its lifetimes. So all of the lessons. So in yoga, if you think of samskara, the samskaras that we have, so we bring those lifetime to lifetime. So those are like the deep rooted issues or lessons or things that, you know, we need to work out and learn. So the Akashic records would be the record of all of that, those samskaras, all of that journey. And there are ways that we can go into and access that. So people can access that on their own, or they can go to someone who is able to access that. So that's the Akash. And if you think about the Akash, when we look at the 5 elements, so we're made of all of them. We're made of earth. So we have the earth element, which is in the lower chakras. And then we have the water element. And then we have the fire element, which is in Manipura. And then we go up to the air element, which is in the lungs and the heart. And then we have the Akash, which is in the higher chakras. And we are made of all of those elements. I think it's only like 12% earth. So it's funny how much we focus on that earth element when it's really just a small part of our being. But back to the Akash anyway. So the records are where a lot of those samskaras and those things are stored. And in the teachings of the Akashic records, there are, I don't know if you would call it beings, but entities or energies called masters, teachers, and loved ones. So, you know, people, loved ones, people who we know in our life who have passed on, but stick around to help our soul work on their lessons and their journey. Teachers are, they might not be in body, but they've been with us since our soul's journey. And the masters are the ones that kind of govern, in a way, the Akashic records. So it's a way of going in and just finding out what the next step is. And I won't share any client examples or anything, but for myself, I go into my Akashic records anytime I need an answer for something. And people actually have access to the Akash without even, you know, doing an invocation or anything to go into the records. It's all around us. And, you know, you might even be able to go in, lots of people can do it, you know, just by closing their eyes and, you know, looking for something. It's basically access to everything that is and everything that has been and everything that will be. And we all have the ability to access that. Just by clearing out a few things that we might need to clear out if we currently can access it. But again, for an example, what I'll do is if I need an answer to something, I'll go into the Akashic records and I'll ask for the answer. And you'll always get the answer that you're ready to hear and you need at that time. So there are a lot of things that, you know, on our journey that we need to hear, but we're just not ready at that certain time. And they'll come to us and, you know, be revealed to us, I think, when we're ready. So that's actually where the podcast came from, was the going into the Akashic records. And that's where the name for the podcast came from. And that's where the name for, you know, my online courses came from as well. It's just from the Akashic records. And yeah, I just go in and ask for guidance anytime I need it with actually everything and anything. Or if I need to be creative, you know, any ideas on what to do, you could go in and write a whole book in the Akashic records if you wanted to. So just finding out what the next steps are and just asking for guidance. And really you're looking within for that, right?
Absolutely. So Shannon, how do you clear out space? You mentioned clearing out space. How do you personally clear out space so that you can listen?
Inside or outside? You can do it both ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a very intense sadhana practice. And that has helped me clear out a lot of space. I think everyone might have different ways of doing it, but I definitely think the outer space needs to be clean and clear in order for the inner space to be clean and clear as well. So, you know, just making sure you're in an area that is conducive to that and the space is protected. With Reiki, some of your listeners might be like, what is she talking about? We Because it is quite esoteric and metaphysical, some of the things I'm talking about. So, however, science is really getting on this and doing a lot of studies to test a lot of this stuff, which is pretty interesting. I know there's a recent book called The Finders that's actually examining enlightenment, and they're studying it scientifically. So, but anyway, that's a sidetrack there. I do a lot of clearing with Reiki. So just using my Reiki symbols to clear the space of different energies. I love sandalwood. Sandalwood is really good for clearing space. And this is all on the outside. On the inside, it's never stopping my sadhana, always keeping that clear and that going no matter what. I remember in the depths of my illness, there was a time that actually, I was so, this is a whole other story, when I got sick, but I would not even be able to get out of bed. And I remember rolling out of my bed and crawling to my yoga mat. And once I made it there, I couldn't do much, but, and this is because of a physical, something. It was very interesting how it all went down and how it all happened, because it happened so quickly. But just laying there on my yoga mat, and I couldn't do the asana, but just being in that space and being in that space where I could be in the meditation and make the choice to excuse me, actually just show up to my mat. Yoga definitely, and the sadhana and the practice definitely gave me my life back, I have to say. And I was searching for things that were outside of it, but it was all really inside of me and through the yoga. So yeah, just persevering and doing it that way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So throughout all these journeys you've been on, you've undoubtedly encountered fear, but you felt it and overcome it. And that's where a lot of heroes on their journey get stuck. They feel that fear, whether that be a fear when you're thinking about being in Miss Canada and then all those doubts come in. Oh, like, I don't have this, or I don't have this. Or you said you have a degree in microbiology, a science degree, and then you wanted to do business, or all the, like, no, I went to school for this. Like, so fear stops people from really listening to their heart and following that. Can you give an example of one time recently where you felt that fear and how you overcome it? And what advice would you give to a hero who's at that edge of should and must, and they're frozen?
You know that you can do it. You have this power within you that is greater than anything. And that power, as long as you believe in it, can overcome anything. Like, no kidding, anything. There are a lot of things that are in our social structure and our society that are set up to make us fail. And really just listening to your inner voice and knowing that that power is stronger than anything and it can get you through anything. I've had doctors tell me, there's no cure for what you have. And I have a choice to believe them and let my body deconstruct, or I have a choice to know that there's a power within me that can heal anything, especially my own body, and not listen to them, but know that is what I'm going to believe in. Mm-hmm. So it's just knowing that you have the power to do anything you want in this life is the key, but it's tough, especially when you go through difficult situations and you have the narrative self, the voice that says you're not good enough, You know, why would you be good enough to do this? Why, you know, it's that voice. Then, and you have to know that it's just a voice, that it's called the narrative self.
Mm-hmm.
And to know that you can control it and you are good enough. And there's no reason why you're not. Doesn't matter what you've done in your life, bad or good, you are worthy. Um, and just knowing that. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And what's a recent example or example that comes to your mind of where that voice was really loud for you and was pulling you back? And how did you overcome? How did you step into that trust, that faith, and go for it?
Well, it has been there quite a bit through all of it, you know, through Miss Canada, through even being a yoga teacher. Now that, you know, yoga has so changed in the way that there's now celebrities in yoga. um, you know, just thinking, well, why am I good enough to be teaching at this festival? What do I have? And I think the biggest thing was just knowing that everyone has something to share, and knowing that everyone has experiences. And specifically, in yoga, I learned that I could have all the knowledge in the world from textbooks and from scriptures and from my teachers. But what I had to teach was what I had actually experienced.
Mm-hmm.
And that was that was like the most important thing to teach. Um, and when I got sick, I was looking outward. I have more contacts than like you name it, every alternative therapy in the book, like shamans, elders, PEMF, like Chinese medicine, everything, you know, looking outward for the answer, for the answer, for the answer. And I remember seeing a shaman from Africa, Maladoma Some, and he said, just stop. He's like, stop. The answer isn't out there. He's like, you have the answer. It's within you. You have the key. Go through all the files in the storehouse of your psyche and find it. You have the key to heal yourself. And he said, once you find it, you know, your illness will be gone overnight, just like that. And he said, and you'll use it as a service to the world. And he said, if you don't find it, there will be millions of people that won't be touched by you. So he said, go find it. And I remember I was driving down the street, and I had just spent like thousands of dollars on remedies to try to cure the incurable. And I was like, I've been training my whole life to heal myself. I have the power, you know, it's within me. Yoga can
Mm-hmm.
heal me, but it's not, you know, so I've learned the yamas, niyamas, the pranayama, the asana. Now is the time to go deep into into the deep stuff, into the meditation, the dhyana and samadhi, and go deep and find that. So that's what I did. But it was super scary because I have a son, and that was all I wanted to do, was just be a mom and be here for him, and not leave him in this world without a parent.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, you know, I fought and I meditated for hours to find this key. And I remember reading your story, you know, the 365 days of Bikram yoga after
Mm-hmm.
your injury there.
Yeah.
And like, holy, you go deep into yourself when you do something like that. And I just completed my first 365 days of samyama sadhana, which is 5 hours a day. And like, holy, the stuff you can
Wow.
find in your mind when you're in there for that long.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So this sickness that you've mentioned a few times, what was the sickness that was told to you to be uncurable, and how did you cure it?
So at the time, I was teaching all over, was running a successful yoga business. I just taught in the Dominican, and I was doing the typical, and I hate to say it, but typical celebrity yoga thing where, you're doing handstands on the beach and doing all the stuff that, looking back, it's like, yeah, I had to go through that, right, to understand what it was. But uh it was just an amazing time. I got to take my son. I was teaching yoga, like I said, in the Dominican and different places around the world, running yoga studios, running teacher training, doing all of that. And then I had an accident where I hurt my knee, and it got better and then it got worse. And then almost right after that, my hand started to deform. So this is going from your business and your life relying on your body to your body starting to do something that's stopping you from doing what you were doing. And so I went in for some tests, and they did a few tests and sent me to a rheumatologist. And they pretty much overnight, my body crippled. And I went from doing handstands to not even being able to walk. And my wrist ended up doing some weird things and ended up fusing. So, lost use of my right hand. And on the conventional side, the doctors diagnosed it as rheumatoid arthritis, seropositive plus, which is really not a good thing. And it happened almost overnight. So I went from doing handstands on the beach to the Dominican to being in bed and not being able to walk and not being able to get out of bed. And that's when you really ask, who am I? What am I here for? What is my purpose? And that's really when I moved into the deeper aspects of yoga. So, my body could no longer do that type of an asana, and the biggest thing was accepting it, and accepting that that's the way that it was, and not feeling bad about it, not feeling bad, okay, I can't do a handstand anymore. The narrative self comes in and says, okay, well, I'm not good enough. But it's like, no, something is happening in my body that's making it so that I'm not able to do that. So that was a very, very interesting, tough time, because all of the doctors, I went to 5 different specialists, and they said, yep, that's what it is. Now, this is on the conventional side of things, conventional medicine, Newtonian science, right? So as a yoga teacher, that you're going to go to other, to a more holistic outlook on things. So I got some testing done in Germany, and they found out that I had something called Lyme disease, and that it was like a deep Lyme disease. So that was another thing, but the conventional system does not believe in it. So I couldn't get treatment for it. So anyway, that's a whole other thing, and it's going to be in my book, because there is so much that I learned about our medical system and how it works, and how, just a lot of interesting information about that. And then some of the shamans I've seen, and what I know from the teachings is that, it's energetic. Everything starts out energetic, and then it moves into the body last, right? So if we look at the koshas, and we look at the way that our whole body is made, things show up last in the body. And I remember at the time I was working 100 hours a week, running yoga studios, teaching, and taking care of everyone. And the last person that I was taking care of was myself. And at the time, my sadhana was maybe, if I could get it in, 20 minutes, maybe not even. So out of all of that, learning that I have to take care of myself first was the biggest thing, and that I have to love myself. no matter what I look like, no matter if I'm able to take the top off of a jar or do a handstand, or, no matter what, I have to love Shannon. Whatever kind of body she puts on or mind she puts on, I have to love her and take care of her. And I did a lot of work through yoga, but also, in the Akashic records and going back to every time in my life where I didn't feel loved. And, this Shannon, going back and loving that Shannon, and healing that part of it, and a lot of work like that as well. And Reiki, I used Reiki every day. Reiki is so powerful. And I remember one of the most recent times with Reiki, it's interesting and I laugh because it was so beautiful. But I remember thinking, healing is so beautiful that going through all of the bad stuff was worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Because to feel like, if everyone could feel what it feels like to feel that, to act like, to heal, the beauty of it, the connectedness to everything, then it's worth it to go through hell.
Mm-hmm.
If you can feel this, then it was worth it,
Mm-hmm.
and obviously you don't say that while you're going through it. You're thinking like, why me, and there's the whole victim thing, right? And there's way more to this story, but yeah, just believing that I had that power in me to get through it, and no matter what, and that no matter what happens, it's there, and it's super strong as long as we believe in it and we invoke that power and we let it come forward.
Mm-hmm. One thing you mentioned there was going back to love that old Shannon, that 3-year-old Shannon, that 10-year-old Shannon, that 18-year-old Shannon, inner child work. Can you talk to me about what role that played, and just explain what that is, inner child work, and how can a listener begin to incorporate that into their own personal healing and thereby transformation?
Yeah, for sure. Well, we all have things that happen to us. And when these things happen to us, if they're traumatic, they're going to kind of set an imprint, and that imprint stays in the subconscious. So when things come forward in our life, our subconscious is already automatically going to come up and say, oh, that happened, so I'm going to be scared to do that sometime in the future. And for me, part of it was really loving myself. And I remember I took myself all the way back. I was trying to think, what was the first time that you didn't feel loved? And I remember going all the way back as far as I could remember. And I did this in the Akashic records. And as funny as it seems, and I was three-ish or four-ish, three, maybe even two. But my sister was born, and I remember locking her in the room when she was a baby. And I know it's not funny, but it's funny now. But I locked her in the room, and I love my sister so much. I didn't do it on purpose. It was an accident. And I remember my mom got so mad at me, and I had to crawl through the window and go unlock the door. But that was like, a time where I not only felt bad because I endangered the life of my sister, but I got really in a lot of trouble, And I remember when I went back into my Akashic records and I went back to the Shannon when she was at that point, I remember seeing her, and she was sitting on the floor in our bedroom, playing with her toys. And she was just, thinking like, what did I do wrong? Why, and she was crying. And I remember just taking her as me now, this Shannon, and holding her and just saying, it's okay. You are loved, and you didn't do anything wrong, and it's okay. And just nurturing that child, and telling her that you know, she is love, she is good enough. And just when that happens, it's strange, but something just magically happens, and you just feel warm in your heart, and things, you know, grow from there. And then I remember going back to different parts in elementary school where, you know, I loved neon and I loved spandex, but not a lot of other people did. Like, I grew up in the 80s, right? And you know, I was called Punky Brewster as a kid because I didn't wear clothes that matched, you know, and I liked the clothes, but a lot of the other people didn't. So I was bullied a lot for that. So, you know, just going back and healing that, and you know, it's like, I'll wear whatever I want now and not care what people think. And then going back into high school, and you know, through high school, I you know, went to a new school and was bullied a bit there, and you know, just going back to those different places, right? And I even went back to the whole Miss Canada thing and did some healing there too, because that's quite interesting. um you know, 60 different women competing for the same crown can be quite interesting. Not all of the time are the competitors yogis and are full of love and nice to each other. Even in the world of yoga, people sometimes don't follow the ahimsa rules, which I think hopefully will change in our world. And as yogis,
Hmm.
we need to lead by example, and I think we need to practice our yamas.
For
Mm.
sure. And as something that you mentioned earlier, it's like that's their story, and it's not to take it personally, because they're acting like that way, not because of you, but because of themselves. It's to
Totally.
be patient with them and be compassionate and understanding that that is their story, and it's not, that is not you, and don't take that personally. As a rule that I've been taught, one of Don Miguel Ruiz's teachings, which I really try to always remember. Don't think takes personally, because it's not always about us. It seldom
Totally.
is. Um, so what's going on in the world right now today? I'd like to go back on your education. So you have an education in microbiology and immunology, and there's a vaccine out now for COVID. And I have no, like, my knowledge, like my background is in social work, and a bachelor of social work and a bachelor of commerce. Like, I'm not a scientific mind, and I don't know what is going on with these vaccines, but that's something that you were educated in with your microbiology and immunology degree. So what are your thoughts on vaccines? What is going on? There's so much people pro vaccines, so much anti vaccines, and like, I don't know what to make of it.
No kidding. Well, I took my degree at the university from 1999. This is going to tell you how anciently old I am. 1999 to 2004, 2005. But in regards to vaccine, that is a super controversial question. I'd have to say, above everything, and this is how I make decisions, most of them, do your research and then use your intuition. So you have to see what your gut says. Like, I have had vaccines before.
Mm-hmm.
I was actually vaccinated right before I went to the Dominican to teach, and right before I went to Ecuador, and that's actually right before I got sick. So, you know, it's interesting. I've had some, I've done the Vega machine before, which kind of like analyzes the frequencies in your body. And it's said that part of the reason I got sick was from vaccinations. So it's, you know, it's tough to say, because I know they're going to set a lot of rules around vaccinations in regards to, you know, what we're able to access and what we're not able to access. And I'd have to say, draw out your pros and cons and, you know, see what is best for you. Obviously, it would be nice to have a world where we didn't have these viruses and these, you know, things to worry about, to create fear. But the best thing we can do is try to build up our immune system beyond making the choice of a vaccine, is to look after our body, COVID or not. The best thing we can do is look after our body. And that is like one of the most important things to do in regards to, if anyone's healing from any kind of chronic illness out there, is what you're putting into your body. Because, you know, we forget we're made of food.
Absolutely.
Like,
I agree. And like for the people that are, so there's a lot of people expend a lot of energy about vaccines. And I just think, sure, like you do your research, et cetera, but if you're not exercising, if you're not eating properly, if you're not hydrating properly, if you're not sleeping, you have a lot more to be concerned about than a vaccine. Take care of that first and foremost, and so many people aren't. So the vaccine, you get to that once you get your sleep in order, your exercise in order, your mental health in order. Take care of all these other boxes first. But so often people are just looking to something to complain about. Whether that be politicians or this or this. Take care of yourself first.
For sure. Yeah, because then, you know, they might bypass COVID, but something else will eventually, if the body is out of balance, it's in dis-ease, right? So if it's not COVID, it's going to be something else. And not to say that in a negative way. It's just, you know, we need to remember that we need to stay in balance. And
absolutely. And that begins with attending to the foundations of our being. So through it all, you've learned a lot about love. What does love mean to you?
Love means everything. Yeah, that's like the best word I have for it. Everything. It's like, you know, the feeling of being connected to everything, knowing that there is that energy, that life force that's greater than these human bodies and minds, you know, that we're made of, and that I'm made of it, and that you're made of it, and that the tree is made of it, and that the cantaloupe is made of it, and, you know, everything on earth is made of it. And through that, knowing the connectedness is just knowing that we have to look after each other and take care of each other. And seeing yourself, you know, if you're going to treat yourself good, seeing yourself in everyone, and treating that person like it was, you know, for me, I look at everyone as my child, you know, and love everyone the way I love my child, and care for them the way I care for my child. And one of my teachers, Sadhguru, one of his mantras is, you know, be a mother to the world. And I think we would all be better off well, if we looked after ourselves, you know, treated ourselves wonderfully, treated our families wonderfully, and then treated the world wonderfully, you know, it would just magically overnight, I think, be a better place.
So to close all the episodes, I asked the guests 3 questions. So the first one, through it all, through your 365-day sadhana, your Lyme disease bike ride in 2010, being Miss Canada, and all the highs and lows in between, what has been the greatest life lesson you've learned on your hero's journey thus far that you'd like to share with the audience?
The biggest thing that I haven't already said would have to be learn to play, and learn to remember what it was like to be a child, and to love life and to have fun. Because I think that's the easiest way that we can bring ourselves back to being in the moment and being in the present moment. you know, if you remember back when you were a child and you're having fun and you're playing outside and you're so immersed in whatever you're doing, you're not in the narrative, you know, the narrative self, the narrative mind that's telling you all these, you know, you're good enough, you're not good enough, right? You're in the moment. And actually, when they've scientifically studied people that are enlightened, they find they don't have this narrative self. So going back to being a child and being in play and doing something you love and being, I guess, if you're looking at states of consciousness, it would be like the flow state. Be there, have fun, enjoy, live life. It's, you know, it's sometimes not until we're faced with our mortality that we actually are grateful for the things that we have. And like, life is so beautiful just when you can stop to be in it. So be in it and play it and love it and enjoy, no matter your circumstance.
Beautiful words of wisdom. In 3 words, how would you describe the reality you are having in this reality plane that you're experiencing right now?
3 words only. I'd have to say gratitude is one. I'd have to say healing is one. Gratitude, healing, and love.
Excellent. Okay, so for the final question, I believe we are all magicians, and I'm going to tap into my inner magician. I'm going to transport us. I'm going to transport us to a time long from now where you're 85-year-old Shannon. What does that 85-year-old Shannon's life look like? What is the legacy that you have left behind?
That's interesting. What does she look like? She'd be a little old lady with gray hair that would have hopefully a whole bunch of grandchildren. And it's funny because, you know, there was a time where, you know, I didn't think I'd make it to the next month or even the next year. So she'd be grateful that she's 85, and she would hopefully have shared her experiences and the experience of, just like I said earlier, knowing that you have the power within you to overcome anything and to do anything. Yeah.
So if you're comfortable, I'd just like you to stay in this future time with me for just a few more moments. And I'd like you to really visualize this 85-year-old Shannon, gray hair, filled with gratitude, full with love, surrounded by loved ones and grandchildren. Feel what that life feels like. And I'm not going to leave us hanging in the future. I'm going to bring us back to the right here and now, the present moment, which is all we have. And what is the message that 85-year-old Shannon sends to the current day Shannon today?
She would say, have fun. Don't take life so seriously. Laugh, love, enjoy, and yeah, be yourself.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing this space with me. It's been an honor. It's been a pleasure. For those who really enjoyed this conversation, would like to connect with you more, where can they find you?
On the web is easy, right on my website. It's first name, last name, shannonsmedella.com. And yeah, right on the website, there's a contact form. And I think I even have like a free download if you want to sign up for the newsletter and stuff like that. So, or or you can search Dialed In Podcast. That's the podcast. And which I'm super excited to have you on as well. And yeah, so they can search for that and look for it as well.
Excellent. So to close, we bring our fist up in the air in unity, and we bring it in for digital fist bump. Boop. We're all in this. We're all in this together. Thank you for joining us. Peace and love. Yes, peace and love to you and to all those out there listening.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.